When we first got married, everything seemed perfect. We were in that stage where we were still getting to know each other better. We were learning how to live together and adjusting to our new life as a married couple. But there was something odd that started happening with my wife right after our wedding. Every night, around midnight, she would wake up. It wasn't for anything urgent or a typical reason, but to feed our cat. I noticed this strange behaviour happening every single night, and for a long time I didn't ask her about it. I just let it be. In hindsight, I realised that was my mistake. We were still newly married, so I figured maybe it was just a weird habit or something she had gotten used to. But over time, I began to see that she wasn't quite herself. She became distant and quieter. She was awake more often at night, while I tried to get my sleep. I decided to ask her what was going on. But when I did, she hesitated before replying. She told me, "I need a cat." I wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea. I didn't really like cats, and we had never really discussed having pets during our relationship. So I told her that I didn't like them. She responded by saying that she had always loved animals, and she had mentioned it when we were dating. I remembered that she had indeed talked about wanting pets, but I didn't remember her saying anything about a cat. So I gently reminded her, "You never specifically mentioned cats." With a little smirk, she replied, "You never asked what kind of pets I like." We stood there in silence, both thinking different things. I didn't quite know how to respond to that. The conversation left me thinking that maybe I should have asked more questions about her interests before we got married. After that conversation, my wife didn't seem the same. She wasn't as lively as before. It was like something had shifted in her. I felt like I was losing the wife I had married. A few days passed and I finally gave in. I said, "All right, I'll get you a cat." She looked at me, surprised that I had agreed so easily. Then she softly responded, "No, I'll get it myself. I know exactly what I want." That evening she returned with a large black cat. It stayed in the corner of the house. It was quiet, just watching everyone. My wife told me that the cat preferred the dark. I didn't like the feeling of having the cat there. The atmosphere in the house felt heavy, and it was hard to ignore the strange vibe. That night, after midnight, I woke up to find her quietly getting out of bed. She left the room as usual. The same thing happened every night. After the third night of this, I decided to ask her where she was going. "Where are you going?" I asked. She froze for a moment, then turned to me with a smile. "The cat is hungry," she replied. "I can hear it." I listened for a second, but there was nothing. I turned back to the bed and went back to sleep, feeling confused. After that night, everything began to feel different. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A few days later, I started to notice something strange. Every time I came home from work, I would feel a sudden wave of exhaustion. It wasn't normal, and it seemed to come out of nowhere. I would try to stay awake, but no matter what I did, by 7 p.m. I couldn't keep my eyes open. But one night, something changed. It was exactly midnight, and I woke up suddenly. When I looked to my side, the bed was empty. I tried to go back to sleep, but it was like something inside me told me to get up. I didn't want to, but I couldn't ignore it. I got out of bed and walked toward the living room. When I turned on the light, I froze. The cat darted away, moving so fast it was almost unnatural. As this happened, I saw my wife standing there, holding a cup to her lips. She drank whatever was in the cup quickly. Before I could react, she stood up and smiled at me. "Honey, you're awake?" she asked lightly. "Oh, thanks for switching on the light. I thought it was broken. I was just about to head back to the room. Are you okay?" Her voice was calm, but there was something in her eyes that felt different. It was like she was trying to read my face, trying to figure out what I had seen or what I might say, but I didn't say anything. My mind was racing. I didn't understand what was happening. I wanted to ask her more about the cat and what she was drinking, but the words just wouldn't come. I had no answers, only more questions. I went back to bed without saying a word, but deep down I knew I couldn't ignore this anymore. Something was wrong, and I needed to find out what. The next morning, my wife was unusually cheerful. She made jokes, cooked my favourite meal, and kept looking at me as if waiting for me to bring up the events from the night before. But I didn't mention it. I pretended everything was normal. But inside, I felt uneasy. I felt like something was deeply wrong. That afternoon, while she was out, I took action. I decided to sell the cat. I didn't tell her. I figured that if the cat was part of what was happening, getting rid of it might expose the truth. When I sold the cat, I felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't that I believed everything was over, but I felt like I was getting closer to understanding what was going on. That night, I waited. We ate dinner and watched a movie. She didn't say anything about the cat or the strange events. It was as if everything was normal again. But just as I was about to stand up and get some juice, I heard a soft movement. I turned around and saw the cat curled up beside her. It was back. My chest tightened, and I felt my heart race. How was this possible? I had just sold the cat. I quietly stepped outside and called the buyer. "What about the cat?" I asked him, trembling. "The cat?" he replied. "It's right here with me." My mind went blank. How could this be? I went back inside and looked at my wife. The cat was still there. She was petting it, smiling. At that moment, I realized this was much bigger than I had imagined. After I saw the cat again, sitting quietly by my wife, I felt a cold, creeping fear. It was like everything that had happened before, the strange behaviour, the midnight trips, the unease I had been feeling, was starting to make sense, but in a way that scared me. I was sure I had sold the cat. So how was it back in the house? Right beside her, just like before. I couldn't understand it. My mind was racing, trying to piece everything together, but nothing added up. I stepped outside, feeling the cold night air as I made the call to the buyer. I asked about the cat, expecting some kind of explanation, but his response shocked me. "It's right here with me," he said, sounding confused. I had to hold the phone tightly to stop my hand from shaking. How could that be possible? I had seen the cat leave with him. There was no way it could have returned this quickly. I hung up without saying anything else, my heart pounding in my chest. I returned to the living room, trying to act calm, but inside I was far from it. My wife was still petting the cat, as if nothing had changed. She smiled at me, as though she hadn't noticed the panic rising in me. But I saw the glint in her eyes, and I realized she knew exactly what was happening. She knew what I was thinking, and she didn't seem worried at all. She was too calm, too peaceful, and that made me even more uneasy. For the rest of the night, I did my best to stay normal. We watched a movie, ate dinner, and chatted as if everything was fine. But inside, I was falling apart. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to trust. Was I going crazy, or was something else going on? The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I couldn't just sit around and wait for something bad to happen. I needed to get to the bottom of this. That afternoon, when my wife went out, I packed a small bag. I told her I was going away for a few days. She didn't ask many questions, just smiled and wished me well. I left the house, but I didn't go far. I waited until I was sure she was gone. Then I returned, quietly slipping back inside. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find, but I had to do something. I set up a camera in the living room, hidden in a place where it wouldn't be obvious. I didn't know what I was expecting to catch on film, but I had to try. I waited, feeling the minutes stretch on. At exactly midnight, my wife came out of the bedroom. The cat followed her, as usual, but this time something was different. The cat moved first, walking slowly and confidently, as though it knew exactly what it was doing. I held my breath as my wife stepped out. The cat stopped in front of me, its eyes staring directly into mine. I felt a chill run through me. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. Then my wife did something that made my heart race. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look scared or confused. She just smiled at me, her face calm, almost too calm. "Come out," she said softly. "You shouldn't hide in your own house." Her voice was smooth, like she was talking to me as if everything was normal. But there was nothing normal about this. "We know you're here," she added, her eyes locking with mine. "You never travelled, like you said this morning." The words hit me like a punch. How did she know? I had been so careful. How could she have known I was hiding there? The cat made a strange noise, almost like it understood what was being said. My hand trembled as the camera slipped from my grasp. I was too stunned to even pick it up. My wife took a step closer. The air around me felt thick, suffocating. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My mind was spinning, trying to figure out what was happening. "Not everything is meant to be found," she said, her voice low and almost threatening. "If you want peace, stay away from what is bigger than you. Let sleeping dogs lie." Then, with that same eerie calm, she turned and walked back toward the bedroom. The cat followed her, walking just as calmly, like it owned the house. I stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. My thoughts were a blur, a storm of confusion and fear. What had just happened? What did my wife mean? What was going on with the cat? By the time I managed to move, it was already morning. I went back to the bedroom, my legs weak and unsteady. I didn't know how to process everything that had just happened. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. When I woke up, everything seemed like it was back to normal. My wife acted like nothing had happened. She was cheerful and calm, and she even asked if I was going to work. It was as if the night before had never happened. But inside, something was different. I felt it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something huge. I knew I needed to get out of the house, away from her, away from the strange events that had been happening. So I decided to leave. A few days later, a friend of mine came to visit. The moment he stepped into the house, his smile faded. He looked uncomfortable. He tried to talk, but it was clear he didn't want to be there. He didn't say much, just gave me a forced smile before quickly leaving. I couldn't understand it. What was going on? I looked at my wife, but she just laughed. I didn't know what was so funny, but I didn't feel like asking. After he left, my phone buzzed. A message came in from my friend. "You need help, brother," it said. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. Later that day, my wife told me she was going to visit her family. I didn't know why, but I felt a sense of relief when she left, For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The house felt different, quieter. I finally slept deeply for the first time in what felt like forever. The next day, I called her. I told her I wasn't interested in our marriage anymore. I told her not to come back. She was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed softly. "I'm already on my way back," she said. The call ended, and my world felt like it was falling apart again. After I told my wife that I no longer wanted to continue with our marriage, I felt a strange sense of relief. I thought that by ending things, I would finally get peace. But just as I said those words, she laughed. It was a soft laugh, almost like she knew something I didn't. She then told me that she was already on her way back. Her words sent a cold shiver down my spine. It didn't make sense. How could she be coming back so soon? It felt like everything I was trying to escape from, every strange thing I had been experiencing, was coming right back to me. I had no control over it. My body froze. I didn't know what to do anymore. I felt trapped. When she got back, everything seemed normal again. She acted as if nothing had happened. She cooked breakfast, smiled at me, and even talked about little things that didn't matter. But inside, I was on edge. I kept replaying the strange events in my mind. The cat, the midnight trips, the way she acted around me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was going to happen. I began locking the gate every time I left for work, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if I kept everything locked, I could keep the darkness out. I couldn't get rid of the feeling that the house and my life were slowly falling apart. One morning, I woke up and noticed that the door was open. I was sure I had locked everything the night before. I froze. I couldn't believe it. Maybe I had forgotten. Maybe I was just tired. I checked the house, but everything seemed fine. I locked the door again and went to work, trying to forget about the feeling that had taken over my mind. But when I returned that evening, I stopped in my tracks. The gate was wide open. The door to the house was open too. A cold wave ran through me. How was this happening? I couldn't explain it. My heart raced, and panic started to rise in my chest. I went inside, my body trembling. And then, there it was, the cat. It stepped out slowly from the house, just like it had done before. It stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked back inside. It walked as though it owned the house. It was calm, confident, like it knew it had control. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't handle it anymore. My mind was racing. I called my cousin, a big guy who worked as a bouncer. I begged him to come quickly. He brought 2 of his friends with him. They came inside, and together we stood in the living room, listening. Everything was silent. No footsteps, no sounds, just eerie quiet. We began to search the house. We looked everywhere. The bedroom, the kitchen, every single corner. But there was nothing. No sign of my wife, no sign of the cat. The house was completely empty. The dark corner, where the cat always stayed, was clean, like no one had ever been there. The house felt too neat, too perfect. My cousin's friend laughed. "Guy, you probably didn't lock the door properly." My cousin shook his head. "Bro, I think stress is messing with you. You need to rest." They didn't believe me. They thought I was just being paranoid. They didn't understand the fear that had taken over me. They left, still laughing, not taking me seriously. I was alone again, standing in the quiet house. I didn't know if I was losing my mind or if there was something bigger going on. I checked the house one more time, looking for any clues. But there was nothing. The house was empty. I felt empty too. That night, I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like something was watching me. The feeling was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt heavy, like a weight was pressing down on me. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling in my legs. They felt weak, like all the strength had drained out of them. I tried to get out of bed, but I couldn't move. I tried again. Nothing. I couldn't even sit up. I felt helpless, like I was trapped inside my own body. Tears rolled down my face as I struggled to reach my phone. With trembling hands, I managed to call my friend. He listened quietly to me, asking if I needed help. I was too scared to say much, but I told him I needed someone to come over. He asked me one question that made my stomach twist. How did you even meet your wife? I swallowed. Online, I answered, just 2 months ago. There was silence on the other end. Then he spoke again, but his voice sounded different. That was fast, he said. I'll come over. Just hold on. I felt the fear grow in me. Something was wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was bigger than I could handle. I didn't want to wait, but I had no choice. I lay there in my bed, feeling helpless, waiting for my friend to arrive. As I waited, my eyes drifted to the floor. That's when I saw it. A red balloon. It was sitting inside my shoe. My heart pounded in my chest. How did that get there? I didn't even have the strength to pick it up, but something inside me told me I needed to. I reached out, struggling to get the balloon. When I finally grabbed it, a strange thing happened. The heaviness in my legs began to lift. I felt my strength slowly coming back. I stood up, still holding the balloon, and heard a sharp knock at the door. I thought it was my friend. I walked to the door, my heart racing, and looked through the window. But when I saw who was standing outside, I froze. It was my wife. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear. She whispered, "Please open the door. Please give me that balloon. I'll explain everything." I didn't know what to do. My mind was spinning. I held the balloon tightly in my hand. I didn't want to give it to her, but I could see the desperation in her eyes. She kept begging, "Please, give me the balloon. I'll tell you everything about the cat." I shook my head. I couldn't trust her anymore. Slowly, I lifted the balloon in my hand and popped it. Her face changed instantly. She covered her face with her hands, crying, "No! Why would you do that? Why?" She broke down in front of me, as though her entire world had crumbled. At that moment, my friend arrived. I opened the door and the cat stepped out from inside the house. It walked past me, then past my wife. It didn't look back. It walked slowly into the street, like it had lost a battle. My wife kept crying, watching the cat disappear. It was like she wanted to call it back, but it didn't turn. It was gone. My friend stepped closer and asked, "What's going on? Are you okay?" My wife wiped her tears and finally spoke. "I got involved with the wrong people and they gave me an assignment." "Assignment?" my friend asked. She sighed, wiping her face. "To go after 10 men, one after another." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was the 9th, and none of her marriages had lasted more than 4 months. I froze. "And the cat?" I asked, my voice shaking. She looked down. Midnight was the only time I checked on it. As long as it stayed around, this house would start falling apart, little by little. My body went cold. I couldn't process what she was saying. This was bigger than I had imagined. The balloon was the final stage, she continued. It was supposed to pop by itself, not by anyone. My friend's face hardened. So now that he popped it, what happens next? Her whole body shook. What I tried to bring into his life. It's coming back to me now. Please, help me. Forgive me. I'm sorry. I turned away, feeling my chest rise and fall too quickly. Just leave, I said. Leave this house. But my friend grabbed my shoulder. Relax, he whispered. She's confessing. Let's do this the right way. That's how he ended up in front of a cleric that same day. After everything, I felt lighter. Weeks passed. One evening, I saw her on a live broadcast. She was looking straight into the camera, speaking to the world. Don't let anyone use you to destroy others, she said, because you'll destroy yourself too. Trying to ruin someone's life won't fix yours. And before you follow a path, look well, because not every road has a return. Moral lessons. 1. Be careful who you trust. Sometimes the people you least expect to harm you can be the ones who cause the most damage. Trusting the wrong person can have serious consequences. 2. The truth always comes out. No matter how much you try to hide something, the truth has a way of revealing itself in the end. It's better to be honest from the start than to carry the burden of a lie. 3. Take responsibility for your actions. Running from your mistakes only makes things worse. Taking responsibility for your actions and seeking forgiveness can bring peace. 4. Don't let desperation guide your decisions. Making decisions based on fear or desperation can lead you down the wrong path. Think carefully before acting. 5. Know when to let go. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from a toxic situation, no matter how hard it may seem.